Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk, traveling in, I'm not actually sure where. This video is one I want to cover because I have a friend, Matt, the LumberJack Landlord, who has over 70-ish units. He'll be hitting 90 this year. He's been investing since before the last housing crash. He has a lot of knowledge, and he shares it on his YouTube channel, LumberJack Landlord, right here on YouTube. But sometimes as an investor, when we're talking to somebody, we have a story in our mind, and we can share the story about a purchase that was so good, we're trying to talk the person into becoming an investor, or our story that is so bad, we're giving them all the reasons why they probably don't want to be an investor.
Sure.
So what I'd like you to do, Matt, is take a few minutes and tell me about, let's start with your worst deal and then your best deal.
Sure. So worst deal ever was my second deal. First one was pretty good. It was, good return. It was a decent area, but I made the mistake of buying a property at the peak of a market in an area that was in transition. And I say in transition, and what that really means is they're saying, well, it's going from a bad neighborhood to a good neighborhood, and here's why, and yada, yada, yada. And so I didn't do enough of my own research. I didn't do enough of my own homework. And I mean, this is basically like, I would say equates to Fallujah. It was not a good area. It was pretty bad. But I bought that deal. I paid the absolute top of the market. It was already skinny in margin. The guy said, don't worry about it. First unit just vacated. And I'm like, oh, well, that kind of changes the deal a little bit. Nope, don't worry. I already have a guy lined up to move in there. Yeah, guess how much qualification that guy went through? I don't care. I'm selling the building. So that started my trek down a path that was pretty much constantly having to take money out of my pocket to fix and repair the building. It took years to get to the point where it was self-sustaining. It took years to get all three units occupied. It was a triplex, and I felt like I always had 66% occupancy. Like there was always a unit coming available, whether it was lease or not, there was stories or not, because people didn't want to, generally speaking, live in that area. So it was a really bad deal. I way overpaid for it. And it's the only real estate transaction that I've ever had where when I sold the property, I sold it for less than what I paid it for. It's the only property I have like that. Yeah. But I literally I didn't have to write a check at closing because I owned the property for 13 years, 14 years, but I actually owned it that long just because I said to myself, I would not come to the table because I'm a lunkhead. I wouldn't come to the table writing a check to get rid of it, even though every year the last 8 years of it were okay, but it was still, as soon as I had the ability to get out of that thing, I called my broker and said, find it, sell it, get it done. I don't want to show it. I don't want to, you just figure it out, get it done. So that was my worst deal. And like I said, that one was a $350,000 purchase, and I sold it for $312,000 or $315,000.
So 13 years with a property you didn't like.
Yes.
With a lot of tenant turnover.
Yep. Tons.
Absolutely a story that tells people maybe you shouldn't be an investor if they were all like that, right?
Yes. Yes.
But they're exactly.
Not. They aren't.
So before we get into your best deal, I'm going to take 30 seconds because
Please.
My experience has been very different than yours.
Yes.
My worst deal was a 10%, 10.2% cash on cash return where I had to spend about $5,000 when I took ownership of the property. My best deal is a 17% cash on cash return where I spent $200 on repairs on the property when I took ownership. That's the gap between worst and best for me. I have had worst tenant, which was not best, worst property, but I'm curious to hear what's your best deal look like?
The best deal ever. So there's two that are really close, near and dear to my heart. One of them was an MLS purchase. Saw it come on at just about midnight at night. I'm such a clown. I was actually texting back and forth with my broker because he's the same kind of clown that I am. So it was great. And we talked about going to see it first thing. We put in a full price offer, and we saw it at 10 a.m. in the morning. Because that's when the other agent responded. We gave them the full price offer, had it expire at 5:00 that night before they could get any other showings done. And we got that under contract. And it was actually the house that I started my $1 million challenge with. And so what that house ended up turning into was I bought it for $250K. It's a duplex. I had every plan on keeping the building because I am the dominator of duplexes here in my area. I love duplexes. They're my favorite type of asset. We finished the property and the pricing in that area was so out of control. Every week the prices were going up. And so I looked at it and said, I think we're just going to turn this thing and sell it. So I bought it for $250. I put $65,000 into it. So I was into it for $315 and we sold for $550 with no broker. We sold off market for $550.
Wow. And what was the time frame on that? How long did that take?
So from purchase to close was 145 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So $235,000 in profit in 145 days.
Someday I'll probably let you talk me into trying that $1 million challenge.
Yes.
But not today.
Yeah, but not today. Right. Yeah, it's great. But that was the best deal. And so that was one of the best deals. And that was, gave me an exit, big exit. But then I turned that money, the $1 million challenge. The purpose of it is buy a property and then roll it in the next year, roll those profits into additional properties to get up to $1 million worth of valued properties, assets. And so we'll be making the announcement and kind of taking people through the math in the upcoming week. But that's what the goal was. So I had essentially not only the down payment that I used to buy the house of about $65,000, but on top of that, my profit of $235,000. So we had just about $300,000 to play with to then go turn that into other assets utilizing something called a 1031 exchange.
That thing that they, I'm not going to say it. I was going to talk about somebody trying to take that away. Yes. This is not a political channel.
Yes. Yes.
So you had the ability to make a couple $100,000 in less than a year because you had done the real estate deals that led you up to having the knowledge and ability to do that deal.
That's right. Knowing my market inside and out. That's the only thing that I can tell you. That and being that much more on it than the next guy. There aren't probably a whole lot of real estate investors that are looking at 11:30 or midnight at night. And that's where I'm going to beat you. Right? That's where I'm going to get you, is that all these other guys are waiting to look at it on their phone or, take a look at it in MLS the next day and, oh, hey, we should reach out to that agent. No. I am on it. As soon as something gets posted, our record is actually getting an offer to an agent on a property that we've never seen. Our record was we got them an offer in 8 minutes.
You got me beat there. I think I'd say about 40 minutes is probably my record.
But you can only do that when you know your market.
You have to know the market, and you have to be confident in understanding things like an inspection clause, knowing that you have a set period of time to back out of the deal without losing your earnest money for any reason. You don't have to pay for an inspection. You can go look at the property and say, it's next to that street that I don't like. I don't like the way there's not enough parking. So making an offer and then deciding if that's the deal you want comes down to knowing your market, knowing the area, knowing what the rents are going to be in that area, doing the work before you even start looking for deals, learning some of those basics. Thanks for sharing those two stories with us. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
LumberJackLandlord.com and LumberJack Landlord on YouTube. We are always available. And then 11:30 Eastern time this Sunday, not a 3-hour live stream, but 11:30 this Sunday Eastern time, we'll be doing a live stream and answering people's questions, whatever they have for questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.